Warning.
This show contains mature content. Listener discretion is advised.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
One angry New York City Puerto Rican decided to start a radio show, determined to piss the world off by shoving a mirror in front of society's face. He kicked them in the balls.
What are you? Who are you?
This is the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Crotch Shot Radio Show.
This is not a test. This is a broadcast transmission.
We're going to stay on the air.
And now, the Whippy.
Yo! Welcome to the Crotch Shot Radio Show, where we kick the issues in the balls. We are on an active war against bullshit. We would do anything and everything to expose bullshit. The ends sometimes justify the means. So if you're angry and want the truth exposed, then strap in and prepare to be shocked. This is Smash Mouth Talk. If you can't accept that, then fuck off. I'm your host, Louis B. I take no bullshits from nobodies. I actually expose the bullshit of society and chop it up into easy to digest chunks for you. Today won't be any different. Today I am honored and privileged to have this guest on. You would have seen him on the Late Show and also on Fox News, and more notably on a frequent guest on the Anthony Cumia Show. I am, of course, talking about Mr. Joe DeVito. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, how are you, Louis? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I mean, I was really interested in having you on and having comics like you on, more like specifically because of your political leanings.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're on Fox News. I mean, am I safe to assume you lean more to the right?
Well, it's weird. I'm politically, I guess what you call a small L libertarian. And I think these days that means I suppose I lean a little bit more right, just because the people on the left are behaving so badly.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a libertarian. Of course, I learned about libertarianism through, of course, Ron Paul when he ran those 2 times, and I did more research on what that meant, and it made the most sense to me.
Yeah, I think if you're interested in personal freedom, it's the way to go. I like the idea that you're sort of in charge of your life, and most people like that part, but then when you tell them the flip side is, and then you're responsible for getting yourself back out of trouble, that's when a lot of people think like, oh, I don't know if I like that part as much.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's from what I've seen, like the left or most, like a lot that, like, and the reason why I bring this up, and since you're a comedian, is because, me personally, I wore the Hillary for Prison shirts, like, while I do open mics here in New York, and it kind of gave me a bad reputation because people are like, oh, you hate women, you're a racist, and I don't know if you've seen a picture of me, but white supremacist I cannot be.
Yeah. Well, actually, the way I heard about you was that I don't get into the Facebook and Twitter back and forth stuff like that, but it's really hard to avoid it these days. And I saw some thread where people were talking about what a troublemaker you were, and then I read your comments and I thought, oh, this guy actually sounds pretty reasonable to me. So it was unusual in that it just seems strange to me that if someone disagrees with the prevailing current opinion, they go directly to you're all these terrible things. You're a Nazi. You're a racist. You're a misogynist. So they don't even warm up with a few little things in between. And they give you all of them, no matter what it is you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I did the Proud Boy thing.
Yeah,
I'm second degree Proud Boy, and I know it started off as a joke, but there's certain aspects of it that, you know, that I truly believe in as far as masculinity is concerned. Because I truly believe that masculinity is being attacked, especially when you got male rompers. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, okay, be gay, wear male rompers, I don't care. But it's what I don't like about it is if you don't like it, you're somehow bigoted.
Yeah, well, you see stuff like that. That's not even gay. Gay men wouldn't even. They're too masculine to do that. The romper, that's designed for a man who has no penis. It's the removing of the male genitalia, and coming up with the article of clothing that sort of highlights that. Yeah, it's not a good thing that's happening now, because what they're doing is there's male energy, there's female energy, and we both need that to get along.
Right.
And I think it's a shame, because when you turn men away like this, what they're doing is they're really not going for the men who are causing the problems. They're going for the men who will listen to them. And those are not the men who are causing the trouble. Those are men who care about women, and what they're doing is they're really taking it out on them when they're not the source of any of the problems.
Yeah. I mean, look, I care about women. I'm not the type of guy that will catcall a woman on the street, or like, I'm aware of the optics. Like, if I approach someone, how creepy that would look. I'm aware. When it pertains to like the comedy community is like let's say I make an off-color joke. It's like, you know, when we're around comics, other comics, is like you're experimenting to see what works. And especially on Facebook, a lot of times on Facebook I'm experimenting, and you know, you have other comics that take it seriously and they unfriend you, and it's like, really? I mean, it's strange how that's not just something that's entered into comedy. It's part of comedy now. There are people who call themselves comedians, but they just want to talk about how woke they are and about privilege and stuff. And the issue I have with it is that it's just not funny. To me, you can make a joke about anything as long as it's funny. Yeah. And these sort of comedy routines that are just based around really obvious stuff and getting applause breaks because people agree with you, to me that has nothing to do with humor, making people laugh. I would rather someone takes a position that I disagree with, but if the joke is so good I have no choice but to laugh. To me, that's good comedy. Yeah. I mean, like, look, I love Bill Hicks. I loved everything he does. He would probably tear oh goodness, what's our president say? Trump, a new one. But it would be so fantastic, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think of the late, great Greg Giraldo, who just, he was so smart that even if you didn't agree with him, you still laughed. Because the joke was that good. And now, I don't know, it just strikes me so strange that people say, well, you can't make a joke about this, and now it's like you can't even talk about something, and you can't even... We've got people losing their businesses because they're white and they try to run a taco business. I mean, it's insanity.
Yeah, like everything's a microaggression. I mean, but
when you're worried about microaggressions, it means you're not dealing with macroaggressions. Yeah. You've got it relatively good.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, these new language policing rules, they're selectively enforced.
Sure.
Like again, you know, in the open mic community, if you make a black joke, if you make a woman joke, if you make a Jew joke or anything else, that's you know, that's off the table. But I've been, as a Puerto Rican, I've been to many open mics and I've heard racist Puerto Rican jokes, and I'm like, okay, should I be offended? Because honestly, I'm not. The joke's not funny. It's like, okay, oh well, you like one comic I remember made the stereotypical joke where he was a 15-year-old grandfather.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty well traveled. To me, that's more offensive that they're just using such an overdone premise.
But me, I get up there, and as someone who has been falsely accused of rape, been cheated on, I make a joke saying, "Hey, I think it's wrong to call a woman a bitch because female dogs are loyal."
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely you have to have an awareness that a joke doesn't have to be. Now that's not a nice thing to say, but that's irrelevant when it comes to a joke.
Yeah.
I did a show in San Francisco in January for this taping for CISO, and it was so funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but the set that I put together and ran in New York and was really doing well out here, that I nearly got booed off stage for a couple of jokes. And it was shocking to me that these people came to a comedy show looking to get upset. It just and there are people who I don't understand where you go somewhere to have a bad time. But I do a joke about dating online and about how, men lie about their height and women lie about their size. And the premise of the joke is, well, actually, white women lie about their size. Black women can't wait to tell you how huge they are. And she'll have a screen name like Too Thick for You. And as I start the joke, a white woman in back yells, "You're a racist." And she yelled it like she was winning a contest because she was the first person to yell something out. And I ignored her. I finished the set. And afterwards, 3 black guys who worked at the venue came up to me and they were like, "Well, we thought that was really funny. We don't know what her problem was."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, of course it's funny. It's a joke. You're at a comedy show. You're not there. You're not there to win a little gold award because you're the first one to say, 'Oh, someone said a word that I think I might be able to. I'm the most woke person in the room.' It's bullshit."
Yeah, and you touched upon a good point. It's the term virtue signaling.
Yeah.
That's becoming popular. And it's not that these people feel like they are truly offended. They want to feel like they're accomplishing something that I'm not racist. Look at me. And it kind of reminds me of what Jim Norton said on O&A like a few years ago. That these people, a lot of people that get offended, they're not really offended. They just want to feel important.
Sure. Yeah, that's why it's important to be the one with the hottest take, the first one to call. This whole idea too, like calling someone out. Like, don't you have anything better to do? Like, if there's a TV show that I don't care for the content, I don't watch it. I have many other options. I don't feel the need to get people fired. I don't know this impulse of like someone said or did something I don't like, so they have to get fired. They have to lose their livelihood. They have to be humiliated. They have to be marched to the street. I just don't understand even the desire to do that. It's so alien to anything that I want to do.
Yeah, it's like everyone, if you do something that goes against whatever fad or whatever, they want to like strip you down like Cersei in Game of Thrones and shame you.
Yeah, you have to be marched to the streets. And I guess to me, I disagree with almost everybody, so I never felt like this need to constantly be stating it. I don't know. It just seems to me like such a strange use of your energy to be only someone who complains and tears things down. And it's not to say that there's not inequities in society, and of course, I'm not that naive, but this is the way you're going to deal with them. Again, like we mentioned, the microaggressions. If you're focused on microaggressions, you're really a person just looking for things to complain about, because they've gotten to the point where if you acknowledge someone, you're patronizing. If you don't acknowledge them, you're othering them. If you make an assumption about anything that they're doing, well, then you're labeling them. But if you don't acknowledge it's a game that they're playing, and I don't like that they're playing a game with language, because I love language.
Yeah.
Language is designed to bring people together, and they're using it to separate people, to tear us apart.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point that you can't even discuss if there's a problem. I mean, I don't know if you've read the Bible. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, so
okay.
It just like this type of thing reminds me of how Jesus had to deal with the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And how the Pharisees had rules on top of the rules to protect the rules. It's
and they lost sight of what the big picture was.
Yes. I mean, and that's what I see a lot of these people. You can't. Oh, you've gotten close, not even to the line, but you've gotten close to like the warning track. You said it's gotten to the point where it like you said the word a certain way, and that means you have a thing against the indigenous people of the pygmies of Africa, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's really that ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and even like some of the arguments now about cultural appropriation, where you couldn't before you got in trouble because you weren't acknowledging people's culture, but now if you do acknowledge it, it's cultural appropriation or it's pandering or there's no way to win it. So the best way to do it is just don't play the game, which is what I try to avoid it. I don't let those people rile me up. I got into it with a comic just the other day where, it's so funny that I get put in this position of having to defend Donald Trump. The guy's obnoxious, but he's the president. And to me, there's so many things about him that you can legitimately criticize that you don't need to make stuff up. To me, it's like making up complaints about Donald Trump. It's like bringing your own food to the old country buffet. He's provided plenty for you to work with. But this going on and on about Nazis are going to take over. It's like Nazis. He's got his daughter converted to Judaism. His son-in-law is Jewish. You're talking nonsense.
Exactly. And I mean, like, look, there's certain things that I don't agree with Trump on, as a libertarian. And, like, get him on real issues, not focus on, like, it's like a lot of double speak. Double think. Like Comey says that we didn't find anything a Russia Trump link. Yet they're still on this whole Trump Russia thing.
Yeah, and if you recall at the last presidential debates when Mitt Romney said to Barack Obama that Russia was our number one geopolitical threat, he made fun of him. He mocked him for saying that. So, the idea that it's this magical thinking where people can have two completely different opinions at the same time. That Comey was terrible for releasing the statement on Hillary before the election, and he should have been fired, but not fired by Trump. That was a bad thing. It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Like, it's like, what do you want?
Yeah. Also, if you really expand so Trump is a Russian agent. So what was the deep plan here that, okay, we're going to get a billionaire. He's going to have a TV show for 15 years, and that's really going to set things up for him to sweep. Oh, the Russians didn't think he was going to win the presidency either. No one predicted that, except for a handful of people. Except for Ann Coulter and Tom Shalhoub, as far as I know.
And Alex Jones.
And Alex Jones, I don't know if you were to add up all his predictions, what his overall success rate would be, but you're right there.
The answer to 1984 is 1995 if you buy my DVD from the InfoWars store. Oh goodness, do you listen to it? Like I stopped listening to him like years ago. When it was because I'm into conspiracy. You know, I like hearing about HARP and the New World Order and stuff like that. But then it went from 9/11 was an inside job to like, oh, now these damn Hajis. Like, wait, what? Wait. I thought we were okay with Muslims.
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Yeah, I can only take him in small doses because then it becomes, all right, am I watching political theater here or am I actually trying to get an alternative viewpoint?
Yeah.
The problem I have with conspiracy theories is that a lot of conspiracy theorists, they believe every conspiracy theory, which to me is they're just choosing to live in an alternate reality. And I've had people do this thing where they explain to you how all the dots connect, and by the time they're done, you're just looking at them like, so you mean Bigfoot shot JFK? Like you've connected too many dots.
No, Bigfoot doesn't have the aim. It was the it was the god damn, the lizard.
The lizard people. Yeah, I mean but you know what? I have to say this, after Trump winning the election and all the stuff that we now know has happened, you kind of can't act like conspiracy theory people are as nutty. You used to be able to say, come on, nothing like that's going on. And you're like, geez, what's going on with the deep state and the fact that, there are times where I'm at Fox News and I go up and I make my little comments and my little jokes, and when I'm leaving and I'll hear on a monitor someone say President Trump, and I'll just start laughing because I'm like, I can't believe the motherfucker won.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, it kind of inspired me. It's kind of inspiring if you think about it, because he had the Democrats and the Republicans after him.
And the media. He beat all of them.
In the media, having said what he said, being purposely misquoted by the media, and he still won.
Yeah.
Like if that's not inspiring, whether you like him or not, that no matter how much of the odds are stacked against you, not only can you win, you can embarrass all your enemies.
Yeah.
I'm like, this dude really just went in and oh goodness, like Optimus Prime in in Transformers 2 is like, I'll take you all on. I don't know if you remember that scene that he's fighting all the Decepticons by himself.
Yeah, it's interesting because
without Sam Witwicky.
Everybody likes to say that he didn't know what he was doing, but at this point, as reckless as he is, it can't all be luck, because if you look back to even things he was quoted and saying in interviews years ago, where he had a plan, and when you look at it, you had a weak Republican field, you had a terrible Democratic candidate, and the time was right for him to make a move.
Yeah.
And again, I remember being in the people talk about conservatives, and I don't work for Fox News, but I've been in the building, and nobody thought he was going to win. Donald Trump is not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He's pretty much a New York liberal who's wealthy. And I say liberal in the classic sense of do whatever you want kind of liberal.
Yeah.
And then it was very weird, like right before the election, to hear people in the Fox building saying, we would sort of hear these little hushed conversations. And I remember talking to another comic about it, saying, so what do you think? Like, you think he could win? And then when he pulled it off, like now it all sort of makes sense. But I wasn't even going to watch the returns on election night because it just was making me sick to my stomach. And then around 8 p.m., I checked my Twitter account and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And I watched the results come in, not on the news channels, but I watched them on Cumia's network. And just to see those guys, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I was ecstatic, to tell you the truth, because, I mean, I was a never Hillary.
Yeah, she's an awful person.
Especially, I mean, even before the emails, it was like, don't you people know what she did in Benghazi?
Yeah.
Like, she got people killed, and that doesn't... And then she says, how? And then was in a congressional hearing, why does that even matter at this point? Like, wait. What do you mean? You got men killed. You had an ambassador getting dragged through the streets, and that doesn't matter?
Yeah, even when she said to some of the parents and families of the soldiers, and we're going to get that YouTube filmmaker, and they were like, what are you talking about? That is not... And of course, at the time she said that, she knew that's not what the cause of the attack was some stupid video. Yeah, to me, Hillary Clinton is so interesting because she has all of the naked ambition and criminal drive of her husband and none of the charisma. Because the thing with Bill Clinton was that even if you didn't like him, Bub would get you, and you'd say, he really pulled it off this time. And she's just incompetent. I mean, at least he was a policy wonk. At least he got shit done. But she's just a colossal failure. And I make a case she's been trying to run a criminal enterprise all these years.
Yeah, I mean, and then all this dirt comes out, and I'm still with her. And it's like so her intention just didn't matter. It's just that you want to make history because she's a woman. And I was, and the few women I talked to, comedian women I talked to, I asked them this question: have you ever heard of Cynthia McKinney? And they're like, no, who's that? She ran for president under the Green Party.
Yeah.
I never heard of her. Well, she was on the ballot.
Yeah, I think Jill Stein's, this is not her first campaign, I think.
Yeah, no. No, I don't think so. But I mean, Jill Stein. I mean, especially afterwards, when she wanted a recount, not to
Yeah.
like. Okay, you raised all like. First of all, what happened to all that money she raised?
Yeah, she raised more money for the recount than she did for her entire campaign.
Yeah. I mean, what? Like, and I keep like, and I'm just gonna keep like harping on how comics are viewing this is like. You don't like. I have a god sister that she was a not a candidate. She was a how am I forgetting this word? A delegate. She was a delegate for the Democratic National Convention, but she was a Bernie Sanders delegate. She was telling me how a lot of the Hillary supporters were beating up Bernie Sanders supporters. In fact, my sister is black, and she was with a lot of other black delegates, and they were doing racist shit to her. They were saying racist things to her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and look what they did to Bernie Sanders. I personally don't like Bernie Sanders, but if they didn't meddle,
yeah,
he would have won the nomination.
Yeah, even with the CNN questions. I mean, it's stuff like that you want to make up conspiracy theories about Trump, but you had Donna Brazile, is her name Brazile?
Yeah.
Providing questions to Hillary beforehand in the debate, and you also have the Attorney General meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac, like when his wife's under investigation. It's like this is important shit. You don't just act like this is something you discard. But hey, you know what? If you want to vote for a candidate because they appeal to you in some sort of demographic way, go right ahead. But then that's how you end up with a President Trump.
Yeah, I mean, you see it, I see it. It's like anybody could see it clearly. Yet, yeah. In comics, like especially in New York, I don't know anywhere else. They feel like they're enlightened when they're making Trump jokes. And
the jokes they're just not good jokes. They're so obvious, and they're so cliched. Like I said, I'll laugh at anything if it's a good joke. I don't really. I don't put any sort of ideology in it. I mean, any political stuff that I do when I'm in the clubs, I try to shit on everyone equally because I think that they're worthy of it for the most part. But it reminds me of back when George W. was president. I was at an open mic at the Village Lantern downtown, and some comic went up and he goes, I know it's not cool to say this now, but I think George Bush is a real asshole. And everyone in the room started applauding, and I was like, ooh, look at you taking a risk. Taking a shot at W. Bush in the West Village, you're a coward.
Yeah, me. I'll wear a MAGA hat and my Hillary for President shirt in the West Village. I've done it, but the funny thing is, no one dares say anything to me because because my face is brown.
You're probably confused and so much.
Yeah, they do. They look at my hat, they give my hat a dirty look, and then they look at my face and like, wait, what?
Yeah,
because I was at a few weeks ago. I was at the May Day rally with the Proud Boys. I mean, you probably saw the video of me falling on my ass because we marched right into Union Square and we got pushed out, which was fun, by the way. I wasn't even scared, but a lot of the Latinos, they were looking at me, but you're Hispanic.
Yeah,
and I'm like, don't be racist. Don't be racist.
That's good. That's good to confuse people.
Yeah, I mean, especially white women when I'm on the L train, they'll like look at me, they'll look at my hat, they'll look at my shirt, and they'll like roll their eyes, but really they'll look upset and then look back at me. It's like.
Yeah, I wonder what they think. I wonder if some of them think you're being a wise ass, that you're being ironic, or that. Maybe because you're Hispanic, they think that maybe you don't speak English and you don't know what your hat says. Yeah. Like, who knows what sort of absurd preconceived notions are going through their heads?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, oh, you're not supposed to think like that because you're a certain type of person. It's just fun triggering these people. Like it's like how easily triggered you are. Like you know what pisses me off. You know what offends me. Whenever I hear a child got raped, that's what pisses me off. That
to me is another weird aspect of the left, is that they're so willing to tear down Western culture, which, for all its flaws, really is the most enlightened, successful culture the world has ever seen.
Yes,
it's and I think we've gotten spoiled and soft in that way, that we just sort of take it for granted that women have equal rights and that gays are allowed to be openly gay. Like, these are very new concepts in the history of humanity, and the way you can tell is if you go around the rest of the world, those are just not values and ideas that a lot of people share. But because we've gotten used to them, they don't realize that those are values that were hard fought, that those were values that a lot of people had to sacrifice and suffer for, and now we're lucky enough that we see them as fait accompli. But the rest of the world doesn't see that. It's very easy if they just look around, but they refuse to.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a talk with one of my good friends like before the show, and it's like the information is out there. It doesn't take that much to do the research. There are a lot of comics that in fact, I'm not gonna name her name, but she took a picture of me during the May Day rally, and tried to say that I was throwing up Nazi signals.
Ugh, God.
And I'm like, you don't even have a picture nor video of me doing it, because I wasn't doing it. But these people they'll just believe it and be like, oh, Louis B's a Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, it used to mean something when you call someone a Nazi. It used to mean like some good, like, Raiders of the Lost Ark shit. Now you're a Nazi for any reason because you slightest disagreement. It's unfair to Nazis, but it's unfair to just immediately go to that because someone disagrees with you. Now they're the absolute worst person on earth. To me, it shows a real immaturity in that person's mind, that they can't handle any. This is a funny thing. Before the election, the only thing I put up was I put up a tweet that said, "Just remember, there are decent, honest people who disagree with you, and there are people who agree with you who are real assholes." And of course, the night before the election, everyone was like, oh, because they all thought Hillary was going to win.
Exactly.
They all thought like that. Yes, that'll keep those ruffians in line. And then the same people who clicked love on that the next day were calling for armed insurrection. And it's like, what happened to your must respect the results and all? Like, to me, that was so funny the way Trump handled that when Hillary said they try to catch him in these traps and he just won't play along. It's fascinating. The idea that, will you accept the results? They were kind of saying, like, when you lose, will you accept the results? And he wouldn't take that. He wouldn't frame it that way. He wouldn't accept the frame of, I'm going to lose. Which is what they're all about. I saw, it was right after the election. It was hilarious. Kellyanne Conway was on Anderson Cooper. And, all of his questions were pretty much of the variety of, do you still beat your wife? Where you can't give an answer that's not going to lead you into a pit, And she just wouldn't play. And it was so funny to watch someone who's an official spokesman shut somebody down like that. Yeah. So in that regard, I give, for all this chaos. I mean, I heard it described pretty well the other day. I was listening to Sam Harris podcast. He was interviewing Charles Murray, and Charles Murray said that you don't understand what Trump represents to people who voted for him, and he represents the weapon that brought down Hillary Clinton, and that's what his success and his value really is. And when you look at it that way, it starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I voted for him, like, partly because I liked his tax plan. My 401k got a bump up.
Yeah, and they said the markets were going to crash after he got elected, and of course they're doing great.
Yeah. I also like the fact that he signified the fact that speech would be free again. This people will stop being so overly sensitive,
and stop expecting that America needs to constantly be groveling and apologizing and deferring to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a cartoonish character. Again, I'm not for the most part, I'm not a fan of him as the man, as the person, and I have legitimate gripes with some of the things that he is planned to do. But where a lot of libertarians lose me is on the open borders. Like I'm not thrilled with that.
Really, they're libertarians that are for open borders.
Yeah, that's a big libertarian thing. Is a free movement of goods and people, almost without any restrictions, and that's where they lose me.
Well, are you sure it's not pertaining towards like business? I mean, doing business. Like, why should the government care if you do business with someone in Mexico? Or vice versa?
I don't think it's about that. I think it's actually the moving of people from one place to another for to pursue work and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not against that, but I certainly think that a country has a right to determine how that happens. The right. Yeah. Any community has a right to determine if you're a government or a leader who isn't working to protect the people, you're kind of useless then. I mean, that's sort of the first responsibility is to protect your home. And I don't think that's unreasonable to expect that from our leaders.
Yeah, I mean, according to Ron Paul, that's like, as a constitutional libertarian. I mean, you have locks on your door. Well, in certain states you have a gun to defend your own property. Why isn't it not different where the government's responsibility is to protect the people, that they have secure borders?
Yeah, that's where I think it goes back to personal rights and property rights. They're the foundation of a free society. If you don't have those, then people are at the mercy of the government and criminal elements, and you can't build a society unless it starts with the individual. You protect yourself, and you protect your family, and then you protect your community, and then you protect and it fans out from there. So I think that in a way is that's a good thing, and I think that's my main break with the Libertarian Party, and that they don't a lot of things in the Libertarian Party, they want complete freedom and no restrictions for anything, and that's the immigration thing is where I break away from them. And of course I'm making a distinction between legal and illegal immigration.
Right. I mean, the borders are there to protect us, not just from illegal immigrants, but if we just allow people to come willy-nilly into this country, let's just forget about MS-13. Let's forget. Yeah. Let's you got gangsters and they're bad hombres. Let's just forget about that. How's about it prevents pandemics from happening?
Oh yeah, from countries where they don't have any sort of inoculations, or even for people who, if someone comes from a culture where they have values that are just. And if someone's coming from a culture where they believe that gay people should be murdered for being gay, I don't really see why we have to accommodate that value. If someone believes that women, it's a responsibility to perform genital mutilation on a woman, I don't really care what your color is or what you call it. Like, it's those specific things. Like we don't need that here. It's antithetical to our values.
Yeah, and you have these feminists that are so worried about Trump said grab him by the pussy, when the full quote is, when you're rich and famous, they let you.
Yeah.
But they don't. They stay shut when in Africa they still practice clitoral circumcision.
Yeah.
Which to me is barbaric. And now what in Michigan, they're legalizing it there.
Well, I know that they just arrested some doctors, and they said the police have a very hard time building the cases against them when that happens, because people in the community don't want to speak out against it.
Like for women here that are so afraid of being slut shamed. Like, why is this okay here? Like, okay, you don't want to talk about how bad people do it, like how bad other cultures are in their own countries. I don't like it, but at the end of the day, is it my business? No.
Well, I think you have to have some sort of prioritizing, or we're going to act like in the United States we're arguing over people decorating cakes, and in Iran they're hanging gay people from scaffolding. Like, you have to see some difference in degree between those two things.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't give a damn if you wanna if you don't want to make a cake for a gay person, I could give a damn if you're gay. I could give it, like, I would have to care and put all my energy into policing other people's lives. And I don't have the time, I don't have the money, and I really just don't have the desire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real beauty in the idea of, well, that's not any of my business.
Yeah.
You know, Kermit with his iced tea, right? He's right. It's not any of his business. It's not any of my business.
Yeah.
And that's, see, this is another problem too, is I think we've gotten used to making government so powerful and so involved in our day-to-day life that now it's hard to get it out. I mean, even the idea that the government should be involved in your healthcare decisions, to me, is like, there's just no way that's going to work successfully. But, you know, now we want the government to protect us from all sorts of perceived slights, and someone said something you don't like, or they called you by a name you didn't like, and the government has to get involved, where there used to be other ways of settling these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why do people, like, people are so afraid of Nazis, yet they don't see that they're being authoritarian themselves.
Oh yeah, because it's easy to say it's okay to punch a Nazi, and then you just call everyone a Nazi.
Yeah.
You know, it really lets you off the hook.
And
you know, and Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan, sure, disgusting ideologies, nothing to take lightly, but they're not a problem in the United States. What's a real problem in the United States is the slaughter that's going on in Chicago on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot the numbers. It was like, what, 4,000 shootings?
Yeah, they had a hot weekend because it was a holiday weekend, and it's really an abomination what happens. But, you know, again, people don't want to. You can't solve problems if you can't identify the problem, and that's another concern with this policing of language we have here, is that someone could have a legitimate factual issue they're trying to bring up, but people say, no, well, you can't bring that up because you are a certain color, or you're a certain gender or orientation or anything like that. And to me, it's like, well, that doesn't change the truth of what the person says. But in some ways, it's a war on the idea of what truth means.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if look, I'm not trying to, like, tell people what to say. Like you said, you don't agree with a lot of what other comics say, but I bring this up because this is like breaking today, the whole Kathy Griffin thing.
Yeah. Like,
she's taking a pic, for people that don't know that are listening. She took a picture of a decapitated Donald Trump head in effigy, like bleeding and stuff, just holding it up. You know, she I guess she got a ton of backlash, and now she was like apologizing, but she kind of, but at the same time she kind of didn't, because she's like, well, it's art.
Well, by the way, if you go to my Twitter account, I put up a picture where I swapped the faces.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just for my own amusement. Yeah, you know, in general, I don't know. I feel like I watched the apology, which I was surprised that she apologized.
Yeah.
Because I don't see how expressing anti-Trump opinions, I don't see how that has a negative effect on someone's show business career.
Yeah. By the way,
so pro-Trump opinions, like Tim Allen, get your show canceled. But, you know, again, it's the lameness of the imagery. And also, we're at a time where the real bad guys are actually cutting off people's heads and joyfully displaying them. That's the real world we live in. So if you want to have your art, and this is the way you must express yourself, you know, I'm glad Congress is making no law to prohibit you from doing that. But let's be honest here. The real bad guys are cutting off heads. They are soaked in blood, and they are displaying them proudly. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, though. Do I believe Kathy Griffin should lose her job for doing this? No. Am I particularly offended by this imagery? Nah. Like, I don't care. It's like,
well, when you say lose her job, as decided by who?
Well, I mean, the same way they people will have sponsors pull out of shows. Yeah. They'll boycott, or they'll rabble until the corporations cave.
Yeah, I don't know if I always have a problem with that, because I think you certainly can vote with your dollar, just as you can vote with your feet if you don't like the way things are in a certain place, and you can leave.
Oh yeah, no, by all means, but
Yeah.
it's like,
I would be more upset if someone were to lose a job because of threats to their personal safety. That to me is a problem. But if someone, and no one's under any obligation to employ you, which
Yeah.
I know
right.
seems like kind of a drag that you could lose your job for that. But at this point, I guess because being a comic, I'm just so much more aware of if I say something someone doesn't enjoy, they don't hire me anymore. So I'm a little bit closer to that as opposed to people who have more normal jobs where, they tweet something from a private account and then they come into their corporate job and the next day they tell them they're fired.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess to me, I don't mind it as much as long as there's no coercion and there's no involvement of the state. But then again, I don't know who would Kathy Griffin be pissing off that they would lose money from. I don't see that happening.
Right.
I think it may be one of those things where they get the best of both worlds. They have the shocking image. They get all the love from the people who think that's a cool thing to do, and then they do an apology and they sort of cover their asses that way. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened in this case, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So, which kind of brings me to my next question. Like in this political climate, how do you as a comedian navigate language while still being true to yourself, to your art, and without feeling like you're like the McDonald's of comedy?
Well, I look at it this way. I'm a professional, and I try to treat things as a professional. Before I did this, I was an advertising writer, and I did journalism, and I did stuff like that. And I just was used to taking a creative skill, which in that case was writing, and applying it the way someone hired me to apply it. If someone ever asked me, like, I would never go somewhere and say something I didn't agree with. Like if someone booked me to do an event for the Communist Party of the United States, I would decline. I just wouldn't take the gig. I wouldn't say, well, I got to eat. I would make that a sacrifice on my own. But for me, I look at it this way. Like when I do family resorts, I don't curse, and I talk about stuff that's appropriate for them because that's the conversation I would have with those people. And I want to respect the people who hired me. Now, when I'm at a comedy club and I can kind of say more whatever comes to my mind, I don't worry about it as much. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, it's been my experience that the things people get bent about, they're very rarely the things I thought they would. It's always something where they come up and I'm like, really, that's what pissed you off? Because a lot of times I feel like they don't even get the joke because there's a lack of understanding that you see in some people that they don't get that a joke about something doesn't mean you think that thing itself is funny. So if you tell a joke where part of the joke is about cancer, they're not sophisticated enough to understand that you don't think cancer itself is funny. That's like if someone says that to you and you ask, well, did you enjoy the movie Titanic? Oh, or do you enjoy the idea of people dying in a boat accident? It's like, no, it's a created work about that topic. And we've all heard comics who rather elegantly handled jokes about death and loss and things like that. It gives it a richness to it. Now, there's a lot of bad comics making bad jokes and just being obnoxious, but hey, that overall that's the cost of doing business. You have to let them do that to get the good stuff.
Right, and as someone that's been called an obnoxious comic, like I'm just trying to like figure out what my voice is. I'm still testing stuff out, and it's like it really seems like especially in this community, unless you are perfect right off the bat, you get shunned like fast, and it's like either people will start making up stuff about you, and it just amazes me. I've never expected this because I grew up I grew up, always wanting to be a comic, wanting to tell jokes, and the comics that I loved were mostly the comics that were on cringehumor.net or on Opie and Anthony. Like, I grew up listening to O&A. Like, I discovered them when I was in junior high. I listened to them until they got fired the first time, and then when they came back and they Jim Norton came on and all these other comics, and the jokes that they made, I found hilarious. Like, borderline racist jokes.
Well, those are jokes that there's something extra to them because they tap into something, the idea of a taboo or unspoken ideas, where it's that cool kind of laugh where people laugh before they can stop themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do. I mean, we've all seen lesser skilled comics who think it's just about just being – I mean, anybody can go up and say something gross. There's no skill to that.
Right.
But, yeah, the comics who do that cringe type stuff well, it's good because it taps into some sort of raw emotion. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's not really what I do, but hey, there's a lot of different ways to be funny. I mean, I love Brian Regan and I love Dave Chappelle and I love Maria Bamford. Like, there's a million different ways to be funny, but you just have to find a way to make it funny.
I mean, the joke that Dave wrote, I mean, I would kill to be able to write like Dave Chappelle. I mean, that one joke he did where he's talking about how black people through history had it bad and all this stuff was happening, all this tumultuous stuff was happening through history, and the punchline is like, and during all that time, Bill Cosby was raping bitches. I'm like, what? And even and you could tell how good that joke is because I didn't even say it correctly.
Yeah,
I didn't even do the whole setup. I don't know it word for word. I'm gonna probably memorize it, but it still gotta laugh.
Yeah. Well, people forget that the stuff that's going on now with Bill Cosby, we wouldn't even be seeing that if it hadn't been for Hannibal Buress making jokes about it on stage a couple years ago.
Exactly.
Because all that shit about Cosby was known and it wasn't going anywhere. So you had him make his couple of jokes. It got the word out and people said, hey, maybe we should take another look at this. So if you're someone who says, well, you can't talk about this and you can't talk about that, then that means Hannibal Buress can't make that joke. And now all these cases against Cosby don't proceed. Mm-hmm. So does that mean Hannibal Buress thought it was funny that Bill Cosby was raping women? Absolutely not. If you think that, you're just a thick, dumb person. There's nothing that can be said to help you out.
Yeah.
But that's where a comic talking about an uncomfortable topic in a controversial, if you will, way, and it was also very funny, he affected a real social change.
I mean, the way I took the joke was that how ridiculous is Mr. Huxtable out there raping people?
Yeah, exactly.
And like I got it. It's like, why? Like, how come? Why do you think that people are on, like, besides wanting to be self-important, virtue signal, all that? Why do you think people just love to be offended and love to just make a cause out of something and blow things out of proportion?
I blame Oprah Winfrey, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, Oprah.
Because Oprah was one of the first to celebrate victimhood, and that being a victim was not that being a victim of something should be shameful or something you need to keep quiet, but they went too far with it, where just claiming to be a victim made you special. Mm-hmm. Instead of, it used to be if you were a successful person, you were considered good. But then it became, well, have you sort of continually suffered over and over again? And that in itself made you a virtuous person. Mm-hmm. And that's how you end up with someone like Rachel Dolezal. Every time I see a headline about Rachel Dolezal, I get excited because I think, what is this nut job up to now? And look what she did. She decided to appropriate a part of black culture where, as much as we laugh at her, she called in fake hate crimes, and she really did a lot of bad stuff to negatively impact race relations because she sort of wanted to just get in on the reaction to the oppression without any of the other parts of being black, which are real. Yeah. She just wanted to cut to the end of the line and say, look at me, I'm being oppressed. Where it was like, well, no. I mean, I had a joke about, she clearly is a woman in blackface. Like when you see her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She just painted herself brown. And I said, I'd like to see her getting pulled over by the cops. She'd be scraping that shit off her face quick.
Exactly.
She'd go right back to white privilege.
I mean, well, actually, let's really look at the real atrocity of this. She was at the NAACP earning over $200,000 a year. Mm. And, her parents ratted her out. Like, what kind of parents do you have that you have a $200,000 a year job and your parents rat you out and get you fired? Like, I swear to God, if I was walking around, pulling my eyelids to the side to look Chinese, and I was earning $80,000 a year, my father would be like, "Yeah, his name is Ching Chong Ping Pang Lee."
That's an interesting take on it. I don't know.
That money.
I felt bad for parents. Like, imagine you raise a child and you love them and you support them, or obviously I don't know exactly what the home life was, but not only do they reject you as parents, they reject you racially and culturally. They just completely erase you like that. That's nuts.
Again, my father, Louis B. Classic, shout out to him. He would be like, "These stupid motherfuckers think you're Chinese, and they're giving you money,
right?
Fuck them."
Yeah.
Freaking go ahead, don't claim me, but be sure you remember me on Father's Day.
Yeah, send a card with a check in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you talking about?
Part of the joke is that it made me think, like, maybe the Spokane, Washington NAACP gig is not one of the premier appointments, so they were like, we'll let her take that. We'll go for the job when it's in Atlanta, someplace fun.
But I mean, and she's not the only one. That what is this? Sean.
Yeah, the guy who writes for the Daily News. That it's so funny. It's like, is he black? Is he biracial? Or is he just a guy with a fade? Like, that's what's so hilarious about this.
No, he's a white guy who claims to be black, and now he got hired by the Young Turks, and it's like me. I mean, the whole back in the 90s, that everyone wanted to be Hispanic. Yeah. And of course I was annoyed because almost every white person was coming to me, can you teach me how to do the Macarena? I'm like, oh Jesus. It's like, hey, you got to teach me how to do the Macarena. Like, that's not even us. That's, I don't know. We wanted to see those two old men.
Isn't that
dead.
The most racist thing, to think that your culture can be summed up in these like outward? I saw a picture of Rachel Dolezal because she does the African hair braiding, and she had the most gigantic Marge Simpson thing piled up on her head, and I thought, really? So that's what makes you black? Is it like when she spoke a couple months ago at a university in South Africa about her black experience, and the Q&A was just people in the audience like, are you for real? They thought they were getting punked.
Like, could it be that, Rachel Dolezal, she was like, trolling for some black dick and she like took it too far? I mean,
who knows? But there's also early in her life she claimed that she was born in a teepee, so she gave the Native Americans a whirl. But it's like, no, that wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see her in a kimono holding a samurai sword or something. She's gonna do like she's like the It's a Small World ride all unto herself.
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to. Elizabeth Warren was like, "Nah, bitch, this is my thing." No. Go with the Africans.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Warren said, well, her proof of Native American ancestry was she had a relative with high cheekbones. It's like, oh, come on. Yeah. I mean, I guess if everything means everything, nothing means anything. So good luck with that.
That'd be like someone with no ass saying,
they're Korean?
I'm Hispanic. I'm Hispanic because my mom has a fat ace. It's
right?
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, look, my hips don't lie. Yes, they do. Yes. Yes, they do.
They are lying right now.
Yeah. just. I mean, that kind of would upset me, as a Puerto Rican, if somebody. But then again, I have cousins who could be damn near Aryan, and I got other cousins that look like they just got off the Amistad.
Yeah.
So I can't even be like, I can't even really question. I mean, hell, you could come off as Puerto Rican, tell you the truth.
Well, that's what I always tell people. I say Italians, we've only been white people since the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
We were greasy guinea dago, the olive oil voice types before that. So, yeah, it's pretty absurd.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And also anybody who talks about, I mean, you mentioned your case, but if anyone who talks about white people master race and looks at me like you got the wrong guy. I'm not the best collection of genetics in the world, too.
Stop it. You're a good-looking fellow. I mean, I don't understand how you're single. I don't.
Well, you're very sweet.
No homo. I had to take it back. But so do you have anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I would say that you can go to Joe DeVito Comedy on Twitter, and I actually mentioned to you before we started recording that I'm doing some blogging, and I'm writing some funny stuff, but I'm writing some serious stuff too, and that's I think that's just you get there through joedevito.com. It's a WordPress thing. I might change the URL, but go to Joe DeVito, JoeDevito.com, and there's links to everything, and say hi on Twitter or whatever.
Oh, actually, this kind of this is the last question, I guess. How annoyed do you get when people they know you're a comic and they expect you to like be funny all the time?
Yeah, it is kind of strange. Well, there's always, I'm sure every comic's heard this where someone says, "Oh, you're a comic. Tell me a joke." It's almost like they can't stop themselves from saying that.
Yeah.
And the way I get out of it is I say, "Well, you have to buy 2 drinks first." And they usually laugh and most importantly change the subject.
Exactly. It's like sometimes you just don't feel on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also like when, I know people can't help themselves, but when they say to me, "So are you related to Danny DeVito?" It's like they can't stop themselves. Right. The idea that, whoa, 2 people have the same last name, it's mind-blowing to them. But I've learned, like, hey, if someone says that to me, that they're just a person who doesn't have a lot of thoughts, so they're going to waste one of their few thoughts on that, and I try to not take it personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had similar, because my real last name is Baez. So,
okay.
So, of course, I got are you related to Joan Baez? I'm like, first of all, she's Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican. No. Just stop. It's like, do you ever listen to her songs? No.
Yeah.
I'm 6.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a comic, Joe DeRosa, who was in New York for many years, and he and I used to do shows together, and these clubs would be like, how are we going to have you guys in the same show? How are we going to – it's like, dude, it's different names. I mean, there's a couple of the same letters, but get a grip.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I do love his bit when he's like – he did this one bit on O&A where he was talking about how, talking about women, about entitled women. I guess Google it, but
I like when he talks about being adopted, and people say, "Have you ever gone to look for your birth parents?" And he says, "No, I kind of got the hint." Nice bleak Joe DeRosa joke for you, but don't confuse him with me. I think he's Joe DeRosa Comedy. I'm Joe DeVito Comedy on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, and also all Italians do not look alike. I mean,
oh yeah,
Look at you and Ant.
I know, right?
It's just like. I mean, you're single. All he does is date crazy chicks. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I'm friends with one of them on Facebook.
Yeah, I think I am too. I have to be careful.
Yeah. She
don't we all?
She doesn't listen. I know she doesn't listen. So, anyways, Joe, you're always welcome to come back.
Hey, thanks, man.
It was really great having you on. It was a great discussion. And bottom line is, people really need to start getting over themselves and allow for experimentation.
Yeah, there's a jazz guitar player I loved, a guy named Sonny Chirac, who did a lot of real noisy, exploratory type stuff. And he had a great quote. He said, "An artist cannot be constrained by the limits of good taste." Mm-hmm. So if you're going for it, you got to go for it.
I hear you. All right, Joe. Thanks. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. And if, as always, go to joedevito.com or Joe DeVito Comedy on the Twitter. Are you on Gab yet?
No, I don't know what that one is.
Oh, Gab is like it's the new version of Twitter that a lot of people like.
Oh, that's the one for like conservatives and stuff, right?
Yeah, the ones that people that get kicked off of Twitter for hate speech in quotation marks, and so I'm on Gab just in case
Yeah,
They
I'll
wanna
check it out. I'll
kick
go
me
say
out.
hi to Milo and Charles Johnson and all those other people.
Milo's there. I think Gavin is there. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't think he uses it, but yeah, a lot of people are on there. So yeah, so I can't. Why can't I talk? Oh, because it's 11:30. So yeah, check Joe DeVito out at Joe DeVito Comedy on the Twitter. Also JoeDeVito.com. He's from Long Island, so show him some love. I don't know why that matters, but yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Please smash that like button however you are listening to this show. Tell your friends and family to listen, and as always, from my house to your house, mahalo.
That's the end of my show. Donk.